Right, guys, it's 27th of October today, and the clocks have gone back in Bulgaria. I was wondering the other day whether they were still in doing the saving summertime saving time, whatever they call it, turning the clocks back, and the answer is yes. And does it affect me? Yes, because now I'll get the sun an hour earlier coming over the ridge, which for me is great in the morning. I'd rather have it in the morning, and then so yeah, fantastic. It should be coming up any second now. Actually, for 10 minutes, it'll be over the. And I'm given out of a special treat this morning. I've got one bar on the fire, on just to give it that, take the edge off the. I think it was -2, and it's already 7 degrees now. So that's how fast it goes up, and it'll go up to like 17 today, 16, 17, I think. So yeah, you just got to, rather than lighting a fire, which it'll get too hot then, and then you don't need a fire after about 11 o'clock anyway. So, and I've been actually doing a bit in the back on the garden wall. I've been doing a bit of pointing, which and building the gap in the wall for flood defences, because I think the water, the way that the neighbour's been remodelling the land, and his land, and and I don't know where the water's going to go from the stream. We get like flash floods, and I've told him about it, but he wasn't listening. I've told him about 3, 4 times now, and he's not listening. And it appears that even now there's no water, but the water seeps down underneath the strata all the time. Generally it's never completely dry, but it does. It's below the surface, and if you dig a hole where the river is, there's water there, and it looks like it's starting to like form a channel through where he's modelled the land. I can't really tell because it's like slow motion, but I think it has, and it's going the right way for me. The way he's modelled the land is actually better for my situation. So we'll see what happens. But I've got to make some. Preemptive strikes, preemptive moves to keep my garden water free, just in case, because I got quite a bit of water in from a storm surge, and it was only it wasn't it was becoming a bit of a problem, but anyway, it just went away just at the right time. It stopped raining. And it takes weeks and weeks and weeks to get to that position, weeks and weeks and weeks. And we've had a very dry summer and a very dry October, and there's no rain forecast for a while anyway. So and it doesn't happen very often, these storm surges. I've known maybe twice in the last 10 years, but I haven't been here all the time. So it may have happened when I wasn't here, but anyway, so the house, it's quite safe anyway where it is, because we're in quite a steep valley, so all the water does get away quite fast, and the river goes quite fast, which is a good thing, I think you get a big flooding when the river backs up, You get a lot of debris in rivers, and it backs up on bridges and stuff like that. That's when you're getting the big volumes of water can't get away quick enough. But it does here. This river, it's like a torpedo, gone. So yes, so there's a lot happening. 27th of October, Bulgaria. Now I don't know how big these voting sheets are. It's voting day today. More general elections. I think we've had about it seems like about 50 general elections in the last 5 years. I know it's not that many, but like that's, and every time they get more parties, and which is the problem. It just gets diluted more and more, so they can't form governments, and the coalitions break down almost immediately, straight away. They can't agree on anything because they're so far apart in the views. You know, it's not like the UK where they're all working together. It's like one party in the UK. But here it's like proper politics. You know, people actually vote for things, and they expected they expected the government parties to do what's in the manifesto. You know, it's called democracy. Yeah, and but they have a parliament which they keep the parliament going, but they don't have a government. They haven't had a government for years. And when they do have one, it'll only last 5 minutes, and then it breaks up. And the president's forever giving these people mandates to form governments and whatever, however else it works. You know, they enjoy it. You know, and they fight amongst themselves in Sofia, which is great. You know, because the rest of the country, and probably Sofia, no one gives a hoot. No one cares. And if you've got a government like that, you know, it's better than what you've got in the UK, who had a to-do list of how to make people's lives a misery. That's what seems to be the case for Starmerama. He just comes up with things every day to make people's lives a misery. Imagine you said in Bulgaria you can't smoke in the mountains. Or in your car, or in your house. It just wouldn't happen. Not many of the things would happen anyway here that they go on about in the UK. Like the 15-minute cities and all that garbage. It wouldn't happen here. They just look at them and say, what you're on about? Because most towns are 15-minute towns anyway. So we've got what they want. But the big cities, I mean, they wouldn't. I don't think they'd have it there. They might do the traffic in that, but that's about it. They'll bring in traffic things and they've done this parking scheme in Sofia. It's a disaster. It's terrible. You can only park in zones, and you can only park in a zone for 2 hours in every 24 hours, you know, and you might want to go and park somewhere else in the zone, but you can't, and it's a kind of a disaster, you know. Anyway, you can get round it there anyway, because you've got brilliant trams and trolley buses, and the metro is pretty good, and everything. If you do it right, you can park outside all these pay zones, which is only really in the centre, and just park and ride. That's what I do if I go to Sofia on very rare occasions to get some Wi-Fi, get some poisoning of the Wi-Fi. Yeah, so and the budget's coming out in the UK, and that'll be a bombshell. I think that'll be a bombshell this time. So we'll see what happens there. And I remember, who was the guy who came out with the budget the other year? Said he was just a genius, and there was chaos. What was his name? Kamalwundi or something. I don't know. He just came out of nowhere, and the next minute he's got the budget, and there was chaos, and they had to get rid of him straight away. I think that was under maybe Liz Truss, and that'll happen here now. I think there'll be a bombshell here, and there'll be chaos. I really do think so, because they've been preempting it themselves, saying how bad it's going to be. I mean, so people are just waiting for it now, and then we've got the elections in the USA, which don't really affect us that much in Eastern Europe. Is the sun now coming out now? Right now, an hour earlier, fantastic. So we've got the elections coming up, and that could be like a little bit rocky as well, rocky road in the USA, because people, for whatever reason, people just can't, they just can't abide this bloke Trump. But I've got no real kind of any attitude one way or the other, really, because it's in America, and they're just as bad as the UK. They're politicians, and they're very corrupt, and then we've got the final couple of days now of the BRICS, which is a big deal. And this is a big deal, because this is a switch of power now to the BRICS nations, and a lot of people probably in the UK don't even know what it is or who they are, and that's another person that people just programmed to hate, whatever they do. Doesn't matter what they do in the West, but it's not so in the East and the South. They call it the Global South now. And the East Asia, they're all joining up, like Rapido, and Africa. Got a few nations in there as well. Africa, I think Egypt and Ethiopia, South Africa, who were one of the first. They were the first African nation. And there's a few more now, Nigeria. And that's a big economy, Nigeria. And you got Indonesia, and they're all queuing up. Some of them are like already affiliate members now. And then there's the next batch, and I don't know which one Indonesia's in, but they're all coming in rapido, and there's talk of maybe even European nations going in. Belarus, they've gone in now. I'm surprised they weren't in before, and there's two countries what they're talking about here who are kind of making and Turkey are going into the BRICS as well. Big population, and and a big that'll be good for them, because they're good at making things in Turkey, and type of textile goods and all that, leather goods, and they're good at food actually as well. We get Turkish brands here, and it's very good stuff, it really is. Good quality food. So the Europe are kind of like losing Turkey, because they've been stringing them along for years, and now BRICS has come along, and they're going for that, and it's probably better for them, and it'll settle the whole of that region down, I think, once they get rid of America and Israel. I think they're realising now at the moment that they're not as hard as they were before, they're not as they can't push people around like they used to. They can't. and that's really coming to the fore now. These people have been getting tooled up for years, like Iran and that, and they've got to tread carefully, you know, because they're not, and the USA and the UK and that, they're not what they once were militarily, you know. I think there was, I think the wars and the forever wars in like Afghanistan, I think it wore them down, and the equipment and all that, and a lot of it's aging now. They haven't got much new equipment. A lot of it's aging, and you know they rely on these. Well, they used to rely on the jets, but they're not like as invincible as they once were. You know, with all the air defence systems knocking about, which Russia have got good air defence systems. You know, which and they underestimated. They've underestimated Russia and China, and they still are. And I think they'll get a bit of an awakening one of these days. And all it'll take is like one of these aircraft carriers, a US aircraft carrier, they decide to, do away with one of them. I don't know how many they've got, but they need them to like, especially like in the Middle East, where they can sit off the coast and be like an airport, you know, for whoever's flying what. Which, yeah, so you've got the BRICS nations, and they've got Vietnam going in, Malaysia. These are up and coming powerhouses. You know, you look at any programs on YouTube about Vietnam or Malaysia, and people travelling around. Look in the background. Look at all the cars and all the infrastructure. And it's like it's booming. Those places are booming. They're on the up. You know, if we're on an upward trajectory, and I think that's the case now in slow motion in Eastern Europe. You know, if they just keep at it, like here, it's not like the eighth wonder like Vietnam's been or places like that. Because I think a lot of that was China outsourcing stuff to Vietnam. As China now become, they've become a buyer. That's what happens when you get the perpetual economy. You know, that they become the customers as well, rather than just the sweatshop workers. A lot of them are well off now, Chinese. So yeah, so you've got a lot going on in the next 3 weeks or less. November the 5th is the US, and maybe fireworks as well. And so we'll see how it all pans out in the next few weeks. But BRICS is the big one, huge, massive. They're talking about it'll do away with the dollar. Well, what it is doing, it's splitting the world in two. And people are actually, well, the way they're framing it now is they are actually taking sides. You know, that's what it is. They've got to go one side or the other, and decide, like, because if you start joining BRICS, then you're going to get sanctioned. So you've got to go in it lock, stock, and barrel, and like, assume that the West is going to be separate in the future. So we'll see what happens anyway in the next few months, and it'll be kind of interesting. But I'm glad I'm in this valley out the way. of a lot of stuff, you know, that may happen, may go on. Because you never know what's going to happen these days. But if you put yourself out the way as much as you can, as far away as you can from, you know, someone once said, put yourself in an unimportant place, and which isn't on the way to anywhere. And that's where I am. Okay, cheers.